There is a divide between the town and gown in Muncie. Tonight, an in-depth look at the psychological cross between a university and the community where it resides.
And Ball State's newly elected SGA executive slate spoke with NewsLink Indiana to talk about their plans for next year. Stay tuned for a conversation with next year's president, vice president, and treasurer.
We had a cloudy day today, but sun and wind are on the way. I will have more coming up in my full forecast.
From the heart of Ball State University, live from the Unified Media Newsroom, NewsLink Indiana starts right now.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here with us tonight. I'm Tyler Brummett.
And I'm Emily Harless.
And we do begin tonight with that SGA interview. As a new SGA slate is preparing to take office, they are speaking to NewsLink Indiana. Elevate won this year's election with just over 52% of the vote. Tonight we have that conversation for you. Now before we get to that, we do want to remind you that SGA Vice President-elect Cameron DeBlasio does have direct connections to NewsLink. He served as our Assistant News Director from January to December of last year. Here's a little bit of our conversation. A little more towards the future, what are you going to do differently than what maybe some of the previous slates have done in the past?
I think Amplify's done a phenomenal job this year. I really do. Working with them, I have felt very comfortable. As somebody who came in as a new senator under their administration, I think they have really done a good job involving senators and helping them do whatever they may need to be doing within Senate. I think, like everybody has said throughout this process, the outreach is something that we really want to focus on. And not just to students who are already aware of what SGA is, but let's hit some of those students and student groups who may not have any clue either what SGA is or what SGA does.
I think everyone can tell you, just from the debates we've had, is just how passionate everyone is. Everyone can allude to Cameron's amazing, passionate, charismatic speeches throughout the debates, and I'm very lucky to have him to really portray our message in such a positive light. And I think that's something I want to maintain is Amplify did a great job, but it's up to us to criticize them heavily so that we can better ourselves as an organization.
What did you guys specifically learn? Because I know there was the issue specifically with the copyright infringement. Did you guys learn anything from that, as well as kind of some of the other challenges that you had throughout the campaign?
I think Cameron said it best. It's so easy, especially when you get into these heated, like contentious races. You kind of need to remember that we are still students and we're still learning. And I think that the justices made a great decision, especially when we when we spoke against the copyright violation, is that we're all students, we're all learning. Should we be held to a higher standard as people that are trying to lead the campus? Absolutely, and we accepted that. But again, you need to recognize we're all students, we're all learning. The copyright thing is just something that we learned along the way.
Now tonight we will have my full sit-down with Elevate immediately following this newscast. NewsLink Indiana is your home for continuous SGA coverage. And moving on now to your weather, you know, Emily, it was a bit of a dreary day outside, not the best day weather-wise. I actually just went outside about an hour ago, and it's also a bit cold out there.
Yeah, I think the best thing to describe this day was gray. And, you know, I'm hoping we had some sun the past few days before then, and I'm hoping we have some sun in this weekend's forecast. So, Morgan, what do you have for us?
Thank you, Emily and Tyler. Yes, I will have some good news later on in my full forecast, but right now we are seeing a weak disturbance that is finally moving out of the area. Those clouds are going to begin to clear into tomorrow, but right now all over the state we are feeling in those lower 40s, so yes, pretty chilly out there today, but we are in that transition season where springtime, night, morning hours are going to be chilly and a little bit warmer during the daytime. Now those wind chill temperatures are feeling pretty low. 33 here in Muncie, 32 up in Marion, 37 just a little bit better down in Indianapolis, our state capital. And I will have more on the full forecast coming up in just a little bit.
All right, thank you, Morgan. A Delaware County EMS employee is serving on the same team of first responders that saved her life when she was involved in a fatal car accident years before. NewsLink Indiana's Jeremy Masukovich has the story.
Kim Hyatt has been on staff with the Delaware County EMS, serving as a part-time EMT for the past 6 months.
I guess I never really thought I could do it until I finally got old enough to realize, you know, if you try, there's things that you can't do.
A lifelong Muncie resident, Hyatt was involved in a fatal car accident where she lost her fiancé almost 18 years ago. Delaware County EMS responders were there to save the lives of Kim and her niece Taylor. She has been able to channel this hardship towards serving as an EMT.
I can really relate. I remember after the accident of just being hurt and being down, and just knowing that, you can relate to somebody and know that you can help them.
Kylie Kulberson currently serves as the administrative training captain for DC EMS. It was her husband who took the call to respond to the accident that Hyatt was in. Kulberson arranged a meeting for the two parties involved.
He introduced my husband to Kim's niece and said, okay, well, she's going to be your patient. Oh, and by the way, this is Jim that was your paramedic on your call. And then it was a little bit of tears and a little bit of joyful, and then it was thank yous, and it was just a really cool story to see everybody at the end, because we never see that side of the story.
Kim is grateful to be a part of the DC EMS team and looks forward to training to be an advanced EMT within the next year. In Muncie, Jeremy Masukovich, NewsLink, Indiana.
I'm learning a lot, and it's a very rewarding job.
To stay up to date with the latest from Delaware County EMS, you can follow them on Facebook.
Meanwhile, Indiana's largest teachers union is urging lawmakers to change the school safety bill. The union says teachers at an elementary school were shot with plastic pellets during an active shooter training. Members of the Indiana State Teachers Association told the Senate's Education Committee teachers were left with welts, bruises, and abrasions. The union wants lawmakers to amend a school safety bill to add language that would prohibit teachers from being shot with any sort of ammunition. The bill's sponsor, Republican Representative Wendy McNamara of Evansville, seemed unlikely to add to the bill, saying that something like this should take place in an active shooter drill.
A local nonprofit is asking for help preparing for a special prom coming up in May. NewsLink Indiana's Michelle Kaufman talked to organizers about the event and what they need.
Be happy. Just be yourself. Have fun.
Angelina Gonzalez has plans for this year's Delaware County Special Needs Prom.
You dance the whole night away?
I hope so.
Organizers of the event are asking for donations, sponsorships, and volunteers.
It's gotten so big, from 60 people to 500, which it used to come out of our pockets.
They estimate they'll need $15,000 for the prom.
Our budget used to be $3,000, and that's our food bill this year. And
because we're just growing so large,
and we want to put full food. We want a whole experience.
Anyone older than a high school freshman can attend, and everything is free.
If you don't have a special needs child, I think it's not as important. But for us, as parents of special needs children, to have a place for them to be accepted, to be whoever they want to be, and be beautiful for the day. I can't tell how many, that's what gets me the most. When I have someone said, I've never felt beautiful before. And then they get the day to be beautiful.
Muncie, Michelle Kaufman, NewsLink, Indiana.
The prom is scheduled for May 4th at the Delaware County Fairgrounds. For more information or if you want to help, visit delcospecialneedsprom.org. And Ball State University partnered with Muncie Community Schools last July. The partnership has been met with praise and anger.
Yeah, Emily, later a look at the differing opinions of this partnership after the break.
No more, he didn't mean it.
No more, she seems fine to me.
No more, not my problem.
No more, she was drunk.
No more, he was drunk.
No more, she was asking for it.
No more, he didn't mean it.
No more, why didn't she tell anyone? No more, we don't talk about that.
No more bystanding.
No more ignorance.
No more excuses.
No more.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that. That's disgusting. Oh, poop already! You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
After retiring from the NFL, I've been able to spend a lot more time coaching my daughter's basketball teams. It's something I love to do. Through our games and our tournaments, we see all types of coaching, good and bad. And it begs the question, do we really know who's coaching our kids? Do they have the proper training and screening it would take for me to be comfortable with my daughters playing for that coach? Our Youth Basketball Association made the decision to use trusted coaches to screen and train all of our coaches. I'm a trusted coach. Are you?
Welcome back to NewsLink Indiana. Students walking in the Art and Journalism building on campus are talking after a controversial sign goes up. The art was created by Jacob Bobeck. He originally held up the sign at the Scramble Light before it was put on display. NewsLink Indiana reached out to the art department and the associate professor of art, but neither would comment. NewsLink Indiana also tried to reach out to the artist, but has not yet received a response. Bobeck's action statement in the pamphlet displayed discusses his purpose is to change the atmosphere on campus. Hundreds of students have stopped to look at the display with mixed emotions. Ball State student Clay Greider discusses his thoughts on the overall display.
Well, to an outsider, it might seem a bit like ambitious of someone to go out and hold that sign up, but to people on campus, they might honestly get a giggle out of it.
Now, the sign has been featured on social media. Ball State's Barstool Sports shared the picture on its Instagram page. Artist Jacob Bobeck will speak out on the display this weekend.
President Trump signed an executive order today tying federal grant money to the issue of campus free speech. A senior administration official said the order is aimed at making higher education more transparent and holding institutions more accountable. Many conservatives see universities as liberal strongholds that are hostile to conservative ideas such as creation theory and anti-abortion activism. The administration official who spoke to reporters today didn't offer many details. It's not clear how the order will be implemented, how it will impact college campuses, or how much grant money will be affected.
Coming up in just a little bit, I will have more on the weather, but right now we are seeing temperatures start to go down into the upper 30s, and that will just keep falling into the early morning hours. Now we'll have more shortly.
Yeah, Morgan, and a team of Ball State students in an immersive course have followed the MCS-BSU partnership for 7 months. After Your Weather Forecast, the second installment of a 4-part docuseries diving into the controversial corporation.
For those who serve today, and those who served before them, for those whose sacrifice will never end, the Gary Sinise Foundation shows its gratitude through entertainment, outreach, and life-changing support. We can never give enough, but we can always give a little more. Find out how you can donate at GarySiniseFoundation.org.
Sometimes there's no do-over. Some things you can't rewind. That's when an extra safety step could mean the difference between a close call and a call to 911. Simple steps save lives. Learn more at poolsafely.gov.
Don't wait. Communicate. Make your emergency plan today.
Of all the things you've done with your bike, donating it to Goodwill may be the most incredible of all. Your donations help fund job placement and training for people in your community, which means your stuff can be more powerful than you think. Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
Welcome back to NewsLink Indiana. Now, yesterday was the first day of spring, but to be honest with you, when I was outside today, it really didn't feel spring-like out there.
Yes, we are in that transition season where mornings are going to be colder and, we'll be a little bit warmer in the afternoons, but we actually have a good trend coming up in the forecast. Right now we are looking at our system that is finally making its way out of the area. All these clouds are finally moving out. We had that rain that was here around this morning finally leaving, and we are drying out now. Right now here in Muncie, we are at 41 degrees. That west-northwest wind speeding up to about 15 miles per hour, actually keeping things pretty on the chilly side. 33 degrees for our feels like temperature. Now all around the state we are feeling these conditions. 41 in Indianapolis, 42 down in Bloomington, and 43 over in Terre Haute. Now tonight here in Muncie, we will only be dropping down just slightly into the upper 30s, 38 by 11 p.m. and by 1 a.m. also sticking to 38 degrees. Now those winds, keep in mind they are pretty fast right now. They might calm down just a little bit, but we are expecting a windy day for tomorrow. Now tomorrow that high won't be getting up too much. That high will just be around 44 degrees, partly cloudy skies. We should finally see the sun again. I'm very excited about that. Northwest winds from 15 to 20 miles per hour sustained. Now gusts could get up to around 30. Now let's check this out. Pretty gusty conditions for the early morning hours, 23 here in Muncie, and then going through the rest of the day. We got about 23, speeding up just a little bit more, and it'll be moving down and winding out as we get through the rest of the night into the evening hours. But keep in mind, we could see gusts up to about 30 miles per hour. Now, going into the rest of your 7 days. On Saturday, beautiful sunny conditions, a high of 48. Partly cloudy conditions for Sunday, high of 55 degrees. And then Monday we have our next weather maker going in overnight into Monday morning. So not much there for the rest of the day. It'll be mostly cloudy, a high of 46. Going into the rest of your work week, we will be drying out with partly cloudy conditions and a high of 43 on Tuesday, high of 52 on Wednesday, mostly sunny. And look at that on Thursday, a high of 61. Yes. I am so excited for Thursday. It should be a great day next week.
Yeah, I can't wait to finally get that 61 on
61.
Monday. Yeah, I can't wait for it. Spring is finally here, so we're
finally in the air. We're excited.
All right, Morgan, thank you so much.
And since July 2018, Ball State has been in control of Muncie Community Schools. Some call it a partnership. Others shouted against it, calling it a takeover.
Yeah, Emily, a team of Ball State students in an immersive course have followed this story for the past several months. This has culminated in a half-hour documentary set to air on WIPB in May. NewsLink Indiana is partnering with this immersive course. Let's take a look.
Division. It's at the center of the Ball State University-Muncie Community Schools merger. Some have been outspoken, claiming that it's not the answer, while others have called for unity. But still, the city of Muncie is divided.
You'll see deep pockets of division, right? So you're not going to see the Muncie of 1960 that had fairly affluent households living proximally to poorer households. That there's much more sorting into neighborhoods, and it's sorting around school borders is where I think we perceive some of the biggest portion of that.
So instead now you have a town that's kind of divided, right? You have on the north and the west side you have a college town. Ball State and the hospital are the anchors of that part of town. And then the other part of the city is still a working class part of the city. The problem is that they don't have the opportunities for high paying work that they once did.
I think they haven't felt a connection to Ball State. Some of them certainly are employed at Ball State, and that's a very good thing. But they haven't felt that personal connection. It isn't part of their life.
The history of division runs deep, to the core of this Rust Belt city.
Some of the malinvestments involved building new schools that weren't needed. Northside High School, which was built in 1972, there was no need for that physical plant. It was designed to separate students from the poor part of town and the rich part of town, probably by race. It was terribly negligent.
Division is, if anything, more pronounced now because you have on one end of town faculty, doctors, professionals involved in these big institutions, and on the other end of town you have people whose opportunities are mostly in the form of lower paid blue-collar labor or jobs in places like Walmart, service jobs, retail jobs, things like that. And those are two sets of experiences that are a lot different, and there's two sets of cultures really in town that are a lot different.
Poverty is so ingrained in these families and in this community. I don't know how we bridge the gap to have a connection to the Ball State family as a whole.
This has been, for generations, a community that is engaged civically and philanthropically. All we have done is, I think, is given people an opportunity to believe that if they stay engaged in the Muncie Community Schools, we can provide an extraordinary education to these children.
But developing those connections is not easy, and I don't believe that we are even close to assessing how that can happen.
NewsLink Indiana will continue to bring you this series in the coming weeks. Now, speaking of the coming weeks, Ethan, you know, when it comes to sports, people are going to be going crazy in the coming weeks because of those all-important March Madness brackets.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm going to tell you right now in the next couple, in the coming segment, that I'm going to be talking about March Madness and those brackets. But we'll be also looking at men's volleyball and their matchup against number 10 ranked Loyola, as well as the Ball State gymnastics team that's having a couple excellent individual performances, as well as I have already mentioned the March Madness bracket. So stay tuned.
Isn't this perfect?
It was my pleasure. May I?
Adam, I can't thank you enough for saving me from that sweepstakes scam. I could have lost everything.
It was a classic cat and mouse game. Remember, you never have to pay to play.
You're my hero.
Oh.
After all these years. What's the matter, Adam? Cat got your tongue?
Sure, I look cute now, but when my owner lost his job, it was rough. I was living on the street, and one night, me and this Cocker Spaniel got into it so bad, I wound up looking like an ice cream cone. I cried a little bit, but thankfully I got rescued, so I'm running, I'm jumping, all back to my old self. And I'm ready to give unconditional love, even if you put a lampshade on my head.
I'm a teacher. Let me tell you what I make. I make learning a privilege, not a chore, and frustration a tool, not an obstacle. I make working hard seem easy and giving up impossible. I make an old subject feel like a fresh thought and unconventional methods common. I'm a teacher. I make more.
Welcome back to NewsLink Indiana. I'm Ethan Gerald with sports. Ball State men's volleyball has had a bright stretch recently in an otherwise dim season. The men come into tonight's matchup with Loyola on a 3-game winning streak, looking to make it 4 against the Ramblers. Kill leader Matt Shevs had a decent night, finishing with 14 today. Still, the Cardinals as a team didn't have the answers for the number 10 team in the nation. After losing the first set, Ball State started set 2 strongly, winning 5 of the first 6 points. Still, Loyola, unfortunately, was too much in this one, winning the second and third sets for a complete sweep of the Cardinals. Not much time for licking their wounds. The men's volleyball team returns to action on Saturday with another home matchup, this time against Lewis University. Excellence seems to have become a part of the Ball State gymnastics routine this season. Caitlin Menzioni and Stephanie Schweikert are the newest athletes to receive MAC recognition. The Ball State gymnasts were dubbed second team All-MAC after continuing their impressive seasons against Michigan State last week. Senior Menzioni has posted a 9-9 floor routine 5 times this year, and freshman Schweikert is ranked number 2 in the MAC on vault. Both gymnasts and their performances have been huge contributors to a fantastic Ball State team, leading them to 10 wins this regular season. That's the best mark anyone has seen since 2002. when Menzione and the rest of the team seniors were only 4 years old. This will be some can't-miss action. MAC Championships this Saturday at 3 p.m. hosted by Northern Illinois. And of course, now our March Madness bracket update. In the East, Minnesota completes the upset convincingly. They upend Louisville by 10. And Belmont, poised to create more madness, a costly turnover in the final seconds allowed Maryland to eke past the Bruins. But opposite coast now, and the headliner for tonight has to be Murray State's near 20-point upset over 5th-ranked Marquette. Heading down south, we'll be keeping tabs on the Villanova State-St. Mary's matchup, as well as in the Midwestern games. No surprises from Kansas, but Auburn squeaked by in a bizarre finish over New Mexico State. And let me tell you, if you guys caught the end of that game, wow, what a close matchup.
Wow.
Yeah, what a close matchup between those two. There's been madness already in the bracket, something everybody's been wanting.
Definitely, I've kind of been experiencing some of that madness myself because my bracket really isn't doing too hot. I know Emily said her bracket's pretty good, though, overall.
It's a little okay, not the best, but, you know, we'll see.
Okay.
All right, Ethan, thank you so much. And coming up, the lineup for a summer festival that has everyone jumping around.
And an animated short that gives a glimpse of the father-daughter relationship. All that coming up in Trending.
Hey, did you know 2.4 million loving cats and dogs in shelters and rescues need our help to find a home? Let's go to theshelterpetproject.org and meet if you are in a shelter near you. Harlow, oh, she's one great listener and loves to hear all your stories. My kind of cat. Cerulo is a sweet, goofy boy who's eager to please. Sounds just like another dog I know. So go to theshelterpetproject.org, search your local shelters and rescues, and go for a cuddle with your next best friend. Adopt.
Problems. The ones nobody talks about at cocktail parties. We go looking for them. No matter the obstacles, no matter the odds, we surround a community's most critical problems, and we fight. United Way fights for the health, education, and financial stability of every person in every community. Will you?
It doesn't take a scientist to cure hunger or a fancy economist to create safe housing. It takes imagination, creativity, sweat equity. And I think of kids going to school hungry. Hunger, homelessness. In this land of plenty, seriously? Come on, we could fix this. Help out, or don't. The choice is yours.
Here's your sandwich, miss.
Oh, thank you.
And your burger.
Awesome, thank you.
And your bowl of boiling water, sir.
Welcome back to NewsLink Indiana. Now it's time for my favorite part of the night where we take a look at what is trending.
Joining us now is NewsLink Indiana's Isabel Kostoviak. What do you have for us?
Hey guys, so you know the first day of spring was yesterday, which means summer is right around the corner, and with that comes concerts. Lollapalooza just announced its lineup for the 2019 show. Our headliners include Ariana Grande, 21 Pilots, Childish Gambino, The Chainsmokers, Casey Musgraves, and many more. Lollapalooza has also provided a platform for nonprofit and political groups, plus various visual artists. The 4-day annual music festival is based in Chicago, Illinois at Grant Park. Concerts begin on Thursday, August 1st and go until Sunday, August 4th. An animated short titled Hair Love has been picked up by Sony after a record-breaking Kickstarter campaign. Matthew A. Cherry, a former wide receiver turned filmmaker, created Hair Love 2 years ago. It began as an image focusing on an African-American dad being put in charge of doing his little girl's hair for the first time. We are proud to nurture talented young filmmakers like Matthew, and it is a wonderful father-daughter story, says the executive of SPA. Along with hitting the big screen later this year, Hair Love will also become a book on May 14th.
Yeah, definitely a very cute story there. Isabel, thank you. And Morgan, how about we get one final check of that weather?
Yes, we have a windy but pretty nice day for tomorrow, but going into this weekend, we have a great sunny lineup. Heading into the beginning of our work week, we might have possible rain showers in the morning of Monday, but mostly cloudy in the afternoon, and then we will be clearing things out for the rest of the week.
Awesome. Thank you, Morgan. That's all tonight for NewsLink Indiana. Be sure to join us again tomorrow at noon, streaming live on the NewsLink Indiana Facebook page.
Yeah, and stay with us for our in-depth interview with Elevate, which begins in just a moment. Have a great night, everyone.
From the heart of Ball State University, from the Unified Media Newsroom, NewsLink Indiana starts right now.
Hey there, everyone. NewsLink Indiana's Tyler Brummett here with you. I am here right now with the new SGA slate, the slate that will be taking office here in just a little bit, Elevate. Gentlemen, first of all, thank you guys so much for joining us. How about you go ahead and introduce yourselves to our viewers?
Well, I'm David Sinclair. I'm the treasurer. I don't have any experience in SGA this far, but I'm excited to start.
I'm Aiden Medellin. I'm the newly elected president for SGA. I was a organizational senator on behalf of our TC last year for one semester, so I do have quite a lot of experience in SGA, and I'm very excited to start this new term, especially with this team that I have acquired.
I'm Cameron de Blasio. I've served as an at-large senator in SGA for the last semester, leading into this semester, and then of course I've worked with you, Tyler, and with the NewsLink staff, so I've had a lot of experience on campus that I think will help me in this role. So
yeah, and that is one note that we do want to make. Cameron did actually recently just serve as our assistant news director from January to December of last year. So first question to you guys, what was your guys' reaction yesterday when you heard the news that you guys had won?
We'll start with you since he wasn't actually with us. Yeah. It's a different experience.
Yeah, my experience was very different. I was doing public address for the baseball game yesterday, and so I wasn't with any of these guys. And Cassidy, our secretary, who's now with us here, she texted me around 5:05 and just said we won. And I tell you, it was the most refreshing feeling to be able to just know one way or the other. It was like, it really didn't matter in that moment what the answer was. It was just like, wow, this month of campaigning is finally over, and of course it felt a little bit better to know that we won.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was a really interesting experience. I do wish I could go with everybody else, but it was still a good one.
I was just happy and relieved, and this was just a really big thing for me.
For me, obviously, just like 3 or 4 months of trying to find the exact slate you want to put together, and obtaining Cameron as my VP, and then obviously getting Dave, and then getting Cassie. I just knew from the beginning that I had the team that I needed to win, and also I had the team that I wanted. And obviously, as we've been saying, is the most qualified. And I just, like I told Camille, I just felt fulfilled. It's amazing to know that all the work that you've done really pays off. So hard work pays off. I think that's the easiest way to say it.
And you guys definitely had a very, very long campaign. It originally started off with 3 slates, then it went down to 2, and then you guys ended up obviously being the winner. So what was kind of the most challenging thing for you guys as you guys kind of navigated throughout this whole experience?
I think the biggest thing for me was just telling myself that, you know, everything was going to be okay, because I think I was the person within the group who was definitely the most I don't say pessimistic, I say realistic. And so I like to look at it in a way that, you know, what are the things that could happen that may not go in our favor? Sometimes people were a little done hearing me talk about those things, but in the end, of course, it paid off like we said. But I do think just on top of that, just trying to get our message out to as many students as possible, that was a really hard thing to do. You know, we could hit so many organizations across campus, which we did, and then, you know, you realize you still have only hit a fraction of the overall portion of students. And so I think going into office now, that's really going to be one of our biggest goals, is to try to make more people aware of what SGA is and what we're doing and what we plan to do as an executive slate.
Yeah, just maintaining that energy when we go in. Because maintaining the energy while we were campaigning was difficult, because obviously we're students, we're learning, and this was a learning experience, especially for me and Cameron, because we're in a political science major, we discuss in our classes so much what we had learned from the campaign. So just there's only so much you can do when you do outreach, because it requires the people that you're talking to and reaching out to reciprocate. So it's on you a lot. Obviously, you need to do as much as you can, but it's also on the students whether or not they want to invest their energy in SGA. And then obviously, as you said, just like keeping your energy up. I was always the optimistic one, but you can only be so happy all the time. Like if you got the cynical guy over here, like, I don't know if we got the votes.
Oh, boy.
But it was a little difficult, but I try to stay as optimistic as I can, because you don't want your team to see you getting down. You want to try and stay that rock for them, and I'm hoping I can continue to be that rock for my team, and also be someone that students feel comfortable reaching out to, especially being in that executive role.
I think the most difficult thing for me was public speaking, because I'm not the best public speaker, and then also learning about everything like goes into a campaign and all the stuff I had to do. I had to learn all that along the way.
Yeah, and you guys kind of hit on some of the challenges there that you guys endured throughout this very long process over the course of a few months. What did you guys specifically learn? Because I know there was the issue specifically with the copyright infringement. Did you guys learn anything from that, as well as kind of some of the other challenges that you had throughout the campaign?
I think Cameron said it best. It's so easy, especially when you get into these heated, like contentious races. You kind of need to remember that we are still students and we're still learning. And I think that the justices made a great decision, especially when we we spoke against the copyright violation, is that we're all students, we're all learning. Should we be held to a higher standard as people that are trying to lead the campus? Absolutely, and we accepted that. But again, you need to recognize we're all students, we're all learning. The copyright thing is just something that we learned along the way, and we're glad it's just another lesson, just something else we learned about. But you just need to remember that we're students, we're still learning.
I think too, one of the biggest things is recognizing that how you handle a situation tells a lot about you too, and never at any point during that did we feel like this was something that we were going to try to run away from or not speak openly about, because we want people to realize, like Aiden said, that yes, we're students too. We're not trying to be up here being these big political figures who are not approachable and not people who can relate to you. And so yeah, I mean, we made a mistake in that instance, and I do think that that's one of the biggest things about being a good leader, is being able to own up to when you do make those mistakes. And then, I never want to promise that I'm not going to make another mistake, but certainly hope that you're not going to make a mistake like that in the future.
Yeah, I think Cam and Aiden summed it up perfectly. It's something we didn't intend to do, but it's something we learned along the way, and we'll try to not do in the future.
Okay, and kind of switching gears now to another topic, because we kind of talked about the past there, looking a little more towards the future. What are you going to do differently than what maybe some of the previous slates have done in the past?
You can take that one.
Sure. So I think Amplify's done a phenomenal job this year. I really do. Working with them, I have felt very comfortable. As somebody who came in as a new senator under their administration, I think they have really done a good job involving senators and helping them do whatever they may need to be doing within Senate. I think, like everybody has said throughout this process, the outreach is something that we really want to focus on. And not just to students who are already aware of what SGA is, but let's hit some of those students and student groups who may not have any clue either what SGA is or what SGA does. And so that's why I think one of the points that I really like, that a lot of people may say it's simple, but yet it's something that hasn't been done in the past, and it's the idea of inviting these smaller orgs who may not have representation within SGA to come and speak to us on the Senate floor, so that they're able to get their voice out there to the people who can actually enact change for them. And so I think that's one of the biggest things that we're going to be hoping to do as a slate, is to just make sure that people know on this campus that we do represent everybody and that we are the voice of all students. And so we certainly hope that everyone's able to see that by the end of our term.
Yeah, something that we definitely want to carry into this is, I think everyone can tell you, just from the debates we've had, is just how passionate everyone is. everyone can allude to Cameron's amazing, passionate, charismatic speeches throughout the debates, and I'm very lucky to have him to really portray our message in such a positive light. And I think that's something I want to maintain is Amplify did a great job, but it's up to us to criticize them heavily so that we can better ourselves as an organization. And I think one of the criticism I have of Amplify is that one, there wasn't enough outreach, and that's always going to be a difficult issue, something attached to everyone in an organization is going to have to work with. But additionally, it's just like maintaining that passion. I kind of want to speak to SGA and all the senators, anyone involved with the organization, and tell them that your position does not tell you who you are or your abilities within Senate. Before we were even an executive slate, we could have been no one affiliated with SGA, and we were already getting things done just because we were students reaching out to the right organizations, right departments. So I think it's very important to prove to them that you can do more than what you think you can. Your position does not say what you can and cannot do. Me as president versus a senator, if a senator has the right energy and the right attitude, they could do way more than me. And that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping to breed a kind of Senate where they're constantly working to do better than our executive slate is, because they really want to expand and really elevate the experience here on campus for all students.
Yeah, one thing I want to do is keep the budget updated as possible, and also keep the senators updated and let them understand how the budget works. Make sure that they're tracking that, and then also hold more frequent finance committee meetings. Those are the two things that I plan on doing.
Awesome. And I know something that you guys had kind of talked about throughout the campaign was your experience within SGA. So kind of taking that experience, how do you hope to use that to your advantage kind of moving forward as you guys take office?
I'll pass on this one.
Yeah. So Dave doesn't have any experience. He won't really speak to it, but he really loves the experience he's had so far with us. I think especially for me is just I had a close relationship with Isaac, which I guess just was kind of unfair, but also at the same time it really worked because when I stepped into that senator role, I asked Isaac, I reached out to him, I said, where can I get these opportunities to really figure out what you do as president? Because, I mean, I am looking into this. I'm a leader on this campus, and I really want to be able to show the students what I'm capable of doing. And if that means shadowing you, then that's what I'm going to do. And so I went to the committee meetings that had to do with administrators. I went to university governance. And on top of that, I was an outspoken senator. The unfortunate part about me, and also the most fortunate part about me, is that I'm always going to speak up. And sometimes you make mistakes doing that, but I've learned that it's better to not live with regrets and live with some short amount of embarrassment. Because it's better to say what you think should be said and to stand up for people, because you're going to regret it if you don't. And I think stepping into this presidential position, I'm going to be a lot more responsible about speaking out, but at the same time, I'm going to maintain that characteristic I have about myself. And I think all those qualities in itself really place me in that perfect position to be president. And I think that the other people on my slate, the other qualified and experienced members I have with me, they can speak to that as well.
Yeah, I mean, for myself personally, I think I share a lot of Aiden's sentiments there. I joined SGA the same time he did, and I did want to try to get myself involved. It was a little challenging the first semester, trying to balance my roles between being in SGA and still being involved with NewsLink. But then as I started to get more involved, I definitely saw both what Matt Hinkleman, the current vice president, does within Senate, which obviously is a very important part of my job, to be the president of the Senate. And then also understanding that that role goes beyond what happens on the Senate floor. And so taking charge with our platform, which we have 15 points, and that's not something that a single person on our slate can do. And so just being able to understand what it's going to take on my end to help with the platform, I think is going to be an invaluable tool going into it versus trying to learn that on the fly once I'm already there. And yeah, I've spoken to Matt many times about what he thinks is important to understand about the role of vice president. And one of the things that he says is just making sure that you are open to the Senate and to the senators. And, I think that that's a role that I'm absolutely willing to take on. I love helping people in whatever ways I can. And so to help fellow leaders to try to maximize their ability as senators, I think is something that I'm really looking forward to.
Okay, and you guys obviously received 52% of the vote, so a majority of the people that voted for you guys, but obviously there's that other 48%. So what would you say to the people who might not have necessarily supported you, who might have either not supported any of the 3 slates, might not know who student government is, or might have supported either United or Empower?
I think the first thing that needs to be said is the reason why this isn't a partisan race, and the reason why we're working towards what we're working towards is because we're going to work for all students. And I think the experience in SGA really puts it in perspective, because Cameron and I, we may work together and have this common thing working in SGA, but there are things that we've disagreed on, and there are things I've disagreed with on many levels with many different senators. And so I've taken that experience, and I'm going to put it into play for this after this election. There's going to be lots of students who disagree with me or the decisions that our slate makes. And you know, you got to understand that you're not going to make everyone happy. But at the end of the day, what you can do, fulfillment I need. Of course, our goal is to help every student. It's to make as many students as possible, their experience here on campus the best that it possibly can be. So regardless of if you voted for us, if you voted for United, if you voted for Empower, if you voted no confidence, it's our job to reach out to those students. Why did you want to vote no confidence? What do you think that we can do to better ourselves? And we've already had these conversations with Spectrum, Step In, Speak Up, the Tiny 12, the Big 4, Greek Life. There's so many different avenues of approach, so many different students and so many different affiliations. All it takes is really that outreach, and that's something we really want to focus on. So regardless of who you sided with in this election, I can guarantee you that whatever you want and whatever problems you bring to me, I will do my very best, and my team will do their very best to achieve whatever goal is necessary to get to what you would want.
Oh, you want to say anything? No?
No?
You had that look on your face like you wanted to.
I think you said it very well.
Oh, wow.
That's good.
Charismatic.
For the first time, I'm actually speechless.
That doesn't happen often.
It
We've noticed that.
Yeah,
So, speaking of the other 2 slates, you know, throughout this process, obviously they presented their ideas. Was there anything that maybe one of the other 2 slates said that kind of stood out to you guys that you might use going forward, or maybe, you know, decide not to use?
Yeah, I mean, I think for all 3 slates, just the fact that we were running says a lot about who we are as people. And you know, it's easy for people to sit in the background and criticize us up there and not really know what we're experiencing running a campaign to do this. And of course, I know United very well. All the people who ran on that slate I've worked with in SGA over the last year, and they have a lot of good ideas, and some of those ideas are already actively being worked on by senators, by those people on that slate who suggested those ideas. I don't know if I have anything specific from either of their platforms that I would point to at this current time, because I do feel like our platform is our chief concern right now. But they certainly have a lot of good ideas that could be brought to the table that we would be more than happy to work with them on, whether it's United or Empower. I know that we've discussed throughout this whole thing that all of us are very willing and ready to serve the student body whether we win or lose. And so I certainly do hope that holds true for both the members on United and Empower. We would love to work with them as senators next year, or potentially as members of our cabinet. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the platform points, it's up to you whether or not you want to put the energy into it. As it was stated before, a lot of the people on United, we know that they're going to be a part of SGA. As for Empower, during the presidential debate, Julian said he really would be interested in coming to SGA. So those people, whether they're involved in Senate or not, it's whether or not they want to put the energy into it, because platform points don't have to just be for executive slates. Anybody on the Senate floor or outside of Senate could easily put the energy into these points and get it done. All it took for us, as I said, like for the Blue Loop as an example, going and talking to Sue Weller, and we didn't even need to be affiliated with SGA at that point. We were just students who noticed something that was happening. The Blue Loop was just overbooked and there weren't enough buses. Came and talked to Sue Weller, and she said, I'll take this into account, and went and put the trial run on for the 2 Blue Loops, and And here we are, we may have 2 blue loops in the future, and that's something our slate is actively working on. And that can be said the same for the platform points created by United and by Empower. It's just whether or not they really want to put it into play. And obviously our slate, as we've said before, we're willing to work with anyone and everyone on campus because that's our job.
I don't have anything to add to that.
Okay, so obviously, when's Inauguration Day? About a month away, is that right?
April 5th?
A month from yesterday.
A month from yesterday, so
April 18th. April 18th.
Yeah.
All right, so you guys have just under a month now to get ready for Inauguration Day. What are you guys planning on doing between now and then?
A lot. Like I told Cameron, just after this campaign, especially with the runoff, I don't want to say it's irresponsible, but I think that just like having a campaign that long and being full-time students, and especially people as involved as we are, ROTC, used to be on NewsLink, also involved with SGA, along with a double major, someone who is involved with like 4 organizations at the same time. There's a lot on our plates, so I think the first thing that we're going to do is we need to reward ourselves. Something that is exemplary of every organization that has ever succeeded is ensuring that everyone that does work is rewarded for their work. So the first order of business is to make sure that these guys and the work that they've done is rewarded. And after that, obviously, it's go time. I wasn't lying when I said the energy we had when we campaigning, we want to maintain into our when we become the slate members, when we get inaugurated. That's something we're going to continue on after this week of decompression. I think it's safe to say that we can get back to work and keep up the communication with the administrators that we've built relationships with.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too, is to try to get the ball rolling on some of these things that we want to do. We have 15 points and only a year to complete them all, and so a lot of that is going to take immediately getting in contact with these administrators. And I personally would like to get in contact again with some of the administrators who may have been a little skeptical about our plan with some of our platform points, just so we can, now that we are officially going to be in office, start setting up these meetings with them and talking to them about what we see working within this particular platform point, whatever it may be, and then just seeing what the path may be for us to either help them implement something like that, or perhaps tweak it a little so that it is more feasible on our end and their end.
Yeah, I think on my end, getting a few more meetings in with Jalen, the current treasurer, would be helpful, and that's what I'm looking to do.
Okay, and finally, what are you guys looking most forward to when it comes to taking over as the slate that's in power?
Dave, especially since you're our new SGA member.
I wasn't listening. What was the question?
So what are you most looking forward to now that you guys are about to be the slate that is taking over?
I kind of just want to experience what SGA at Ball State is, and also compensation is very nice.
I think the biggest thing that I am looking forward to doing is just starting to create that rapport with the new Senate. So that's going to obviously take a little time. We don't have a full Senate. We probably won't until the middle of September. But certainly just trying to make the connections with any senators who I may not know at all right now, or senators who I may know but don't have a very close relationship with. I think that's a very important part of my job, is to help senators, motivate them to write this legislation, because like Aiden said, with a lot of these platform points from the other 2 slates, these are things that can be enacted through legislation. And so that's something that if those people decide that they are going to be an SGA, or if senators, maybe see their platform and decide, oh, well, this is something that I might be interested in working with on campus, then helping them along that path to doing that. Because I know from experience that when you're a first semester senator and you think of the idea of legislation, it can be a little overwhelming. And so just really helping all of those senators to reach their fullest potential, and then definitely reaching out to more people is just going to be so important. And whether we do that through our weekly invites or our weekly social media updates, I think that's going to be a really important part of our job.
Yeah, I guess the thing I'm looking forward to most is just starting. It's been an amazing journey here on this campaign, and I love taking a step back and just looking at the months of planning that have gone into it and the work and the action that we've done now. So I think the first thing I'm looking forward to is just appreciating being in this role, being chosen, having the students use their voice and their votes to put us into office. And then obviously the next thing I want to do is get right to work. I'm looking forward to working for the students, doing everything I can because like I said in our campaign and just all of our debates is ever since I was a kid I wanted to know how can I help people? What's the best way to do it? And I think the best avenue of approach is through legislation and through helping people by giving them what they want. And I think the legislation and just promoting the senators to be the best they can in creating that legislation is just, that's where it's going to come from. So I think I'm looking forward to being fulfilled in our position, and I'm looking forward to seeing how well each of these guys do and how well Cassidy does, because we have a good team and I think we have a lot of momentum going into it.
All right, any final thoughts?
I think
go Elevate.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Hey, thank you guys so much. And we do want to remind everyone that NewsLink Indiana will have continuous coverage of SGA. We'll have coverage when they get inaugurated as well as when they take office. But this does conclude our interview with Elevate. Want to remind you to go ahead and like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And for news anytime, anywhere, go to ballstatedaily.com. Have a great rest of your day.
Oh, man. Way to go, buddy.